Well, if you look at the checklist that I referred to earlier on that's up on Blackboard, in the middle of it is this sort of template for your thesis for paper one. And what I mean by that is I want your thesis to follow a very specific form in this paper. Your thesis in the paper should be one sentence that includes a very specific subject, an active verb, and a very specific modifier. The subject here is going to be the specific sentence, or I'm sorry, the specific experience of your narrative. What is it that happened to you? What specific life event are you talking about? The modifier is the specific thing that your experience has taught you. What did you learn from this experience? The active verb is usually going to be very much something like, this experience has taught me that, or this experience explains, or this experience demonstrates. And when I say this experience, you should not do this experience. You should give me the actual experience of what you mean. So the thesis statement you write for this paper needs to have all three of these elements in this way. You want a specific experience, one of these kinds of active verbs. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of these three, but it's going to be something like taught, demonstrates, shows, conveys the information that, something like that. And then finally, what it is the lesson that you learn from this experience. Okay, so I very much want you in your thesis statement for this paper to follow exactly this format or this template. It needs to look like this. And I've provided you a couple of examples on that template of what it looks like. Now, we did not read the Sedaris or the Thoreau articles this semester, but I don't really want you to focus on the content. I'll just say a little bit about these articles to make clear what it is. David Sedaris wrote about an article complaining about computers and technology, and basically the idea is he thinks that they turn people into boring people, right? And Thoreau wrote an essay where he's arguing that in life you should follow the beat of your own drum, that you should motivate yourself to do things by your own inner voice rather than letting other people tell you what to do. These are both examples of student essays that are going to argue against the premise that the author finds in the original essay. So the first thesis, in contrast to Sedaris, who sees technology as forcing a boring conformity on society, my own experience as a third grade dodgeball coach, this was sort of a joke, but you get the idea. This is a description of an actual experience. My own experience as blank has demonstrated to me, and again, this is an active verb here, so this is the middle part of that template, the importance of technology in finding your specific, unique identity, right? This is the specific lesson that the person learned. So this is the third part of that template. I know this thesis in particular seems kind of silly, so don't look at the content so much as the idea or the parts of the template that have been utilized. We have experience and explained in a specific way, a good, strong, active verb here, and then a particular lesson that the person learned from it. That's what I want your thesis statement in this paper to look like. And another example, in contrast to Thoreau, and I'll just say here that Thoreau is again arguing that everyone needs to order their lives so that they are doing things for their own interest and own ideas rather than what other people tell them to do. This is again arguing against that idea. In contrast to Thoreau, my own experiences in high school yearbook and physics classes demonstrate that it is often just as important to undertake tasks based on the expectations that others place upon us and not just our inner genius. So the idea is that, I think with this thesis, let me just explain, the paper is going to sort of compare two experiences the student had. One was in yearbook class, the other was in physics. Really excited about taking yearbook and thought he'd love it, but he ended up hating it. Thought he'd hate physics, but it became something that sort of motivated him to go into sciences for the rest of his life, right? He never would have gotten into physics had he not been forced to take it. So that rather than doing everything because you think you want to do it, sometimes in life you have to learn that doing what other people tell you to do can be beneficial. So again, we have a very specific set of experiences. Taking physics and yearbook in high school, a good active verb, demonstrate, and then the lesson that we learn. That sometimes life, we learn more from going on what other people tell us than just listening to our own inner genius. Okay? The point isn't that this thesis is per se right or wrong. It's, again, what I'd call an arguable position. You might disagree with it, and you might come up with reasons why it's wrong. That's great. That means it's an arguable position. That means the paper that you would have to write after a thesis like this would have to bring evidence in to make it clear and to try and convince the reader that the point being argued is correct. And that's what you want. So again, that's why I want you to try and follow this template that I've given you, because I think in doing so, in giving me a specific experience, a nice active verb, and a specific modifier or predicate, that you will therefore sort of fill the criteria of what an important thesis statement is supposed to do. So that's my advice on thesis statements. I'm going to talk more about complete introductions in the body of the paper in the next video lecture. One last thing I do want to say right now, though, since some of you may still be working on your draft. The draft is a draft. I want you to do your best, the best you can do right now, but as long as you make a good, honest effort and you turn it in by the end of the day, Saturday, you'll get full credit for the draft. In some ways, the draft is your chance to make mistakes and to generate ideas for the final draft that's going to come next week. So while I want you to do your best, don't get too anxious about it. Don't paralyze your own writing. The point of a draft is to let you get things out and get them on paper. It's a starting point from which you're going to revise from. As I said before, make sure you go back and look at that checklist that I put up on Blackboard that's designed to help you revise your thesis statement. Okay, more will follow. That's all for now.